Welcome to the Stressless Eating Podcast, where we help diet-obsessed and food-crazed women break themselves out of the food and body prison, end the dieting madness, and take control of their health for good. I'm your host, Leanne Ellington, and this podcast is about answering one question. How can you heal your relationship with food and your body and take a practical approach to this whole self-love journey, but without all that restriction, obsession, and shame, and without needing years of therapy to do so? If you want to know the answer, you're in the right place. All this information is 100% free, so please subscribe to and review our podcast. Well, hello. We are back for another episode of the Stressless Eating Podcast, and I am so excited to have our most amazing guest here. We have a woman by the name of Matties Selecman, and you are going to hear from her in just a minute. But just kind of keeping with the theme of our entire season, really messages and thought processes and principles that really last a lifetime and will span generations. So without further ado, we'll just, hey Mattie, welcome to the
guys,
show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So glad that you're here. So before we dive in, I'd love to just kind of open up the floor to you and just kind of share with our listeners, who you are, what made you who you are, talk a little bit about your upbringing, and just kind of share, set the tone for us, set the scene.
Yeah. Well, I am a Nashville native, which, as you know, is probably increasingly rare with every day that passes. So I grew up just south of Nashville. Kind of out in the country. So it's not like I was, a regular on Broadway in my high school years by any means. But, I grew up in the country music community because my dad is a very successful country singer-songwriter. And so that was just the life that I knew. And so in a weird way, I guess I sort of lived like this quintessential Nashville childhood that actually is so abnormal. It's a strange combination of being so Nashville, but also being so unusual.
Right.
So it's been really fun for me, just sort of from a current point of view, to see Nashville explode like it has, and like meet people like you and meet people from all over the country who are coming here. And to me, it sounds lame to say, but I didn't get it at first. I was why are people coming here? Right. What's the big hype? Yeah. I mean, when you grow up in a place, you grew up in Orlando, it's you go to school and you play sports and you do stuff with, so
it's just normal.
Yeah, it's just normal. But I'm thrilled that Nashville has become what it is. And I think the cultures that are coming in and influencing it are bringing such depth. It's really cool. But to me, I think it's still special that kind of the generosity and the inclusion and sort of the just general courtesy that I think has always been here, I hope stays around. I think it's still there.
Absolutely.
I don't know. You probably know better than me.
I mean, I've been experiencing it since I got here.
Yeah, okay, good.
So thank you for paving the way.
Yes, it is a pleasure to serve our new Nashvillians, right?
Absolutely. So we'll talk, you said that you didn't have, to anybody else, it wasn't a typical childhood. Right. Just kind of tell us what that was like growing up for you, what your upbringing was like. Yeah,
so my parents are from South Georgia, high school sweethearts. We were talking about just small town kids, and got married really young, and my dad was in a play, some sort of musical in high school. I think he probably got coerced into doing and realized he really loved singing and that he was pretty good. And my grandparents got him a guitar, yada, yada, whole story, and started playing in a little garage band. Ended up, he really loved it. And he was all I want to do is sing. And so my parents moved to Nashville in 1985 with what he allotted to be a 5-year plan, and if he didn't make it in 5 years, he'd get a real job and give it up. And so after 5 years of lots and lots and lots of rejection and working in mailrooms and playing in bars, whole story that we hear all the time, he got his record deal when my mom was pregnant with me. So they were dirt poor, rented a basement from someone in Donaldson, and he ended up getting a deal, and his first single called Blue Blooded Woman, Redneck Man, which nobody knows but me. And my husband and I actually did our first dance to at our wedding, which was fantastic. It's like not a wedding song at all.
Did your dad sing it live?
No, we surprised him. He was pretty surprised. It tanked, so he was like, okay, like, we're having a baby. We have no money. I have a record deal, but I could be gone any moment. All that to say, his next single, called Here in the Real World, was released spring of 1990, went number one almost immediately, and I was born in June. So that was, I mean, truly the right moment for it to hit. And he has had an incredible 30-plus year career and 35 number one hits and 50 or 60 top 10 hit, just like, it's insane how God has sustained his career. And, so, I mean, that was just what I knew. I mean, since I was a baby, and especially once I got into a place where I could sort of understand what he did, the peak of his career was 93, 94, 95. I mean, that was when I was a kid and I was in kindergarten, and, like, we would bring our teachers, like, give them tickets to his shows. And it's like that, in retrospect, that should have been strange, but it was just what was normal to me. I mean, it was his job, and it was a job that enabled us to be able to share with a lot of people in our lives and include them in stuff. And that was really awesome.
Did people treat you differently? Did people know who you were? What was your upbringing like in that respect? Or did your parents do a pretty good job of trying to create that normalcy? Yeah,
I will say, to their credit, I felt like a normal kid. And maybe that's just a little bit of like naivete, I don't know, but they did an incredible job. They stayed very true, and to this day stay very true to they're just like kind of simple Southern people. And I mean, they have much nicer cars and things now, and bigger houses, but no, we were obviously able to have really neat experiences and do really incredible things just because of his job. But I mean, we went to school with normal kids. We played sports with normal kids. I think there's this sort of maybe hope and illusion that like celebrity families are like buddies and hang out together and just kind of like fly their jets together all over the world. But like, I never knew anybody else's parents for a long time that were in music or, sports or anything. We went to a private school, but it was because it was a Christian school. And I mean, some of my friends' parents worked at the school. Some of them were CEOs. Some of them, were banker, whatever. It was just, we felt normal. And I think there's always those occasions where people know in advance and you can tell that they sort of care more about who your family is than who you're actually going to be. But I will say, for most intents and purposes, I mean, people, at least as a kid in our school, were incredibly kind and incredibly generous to just sort of treat me as Mattie, and I didn't feel a lot of that.
Absolutely. How did you envision your future? Like, did you have visions of like, hey, I want to have a normal, air quotes, normal life, like I want to have a career, I want to get married? Like, what was your vision of your future like, and then how did things progress? Like, start talking to us a little bit about how you became the woman that you are today.
I think there's an assumption, the first thing everybody always asks is like, oh, do you love to sing? Like, are you a great singer? Like, are you in music? I love music. Like, I grew up constantly around country music, and it's still my favorite thing. And, would someone give me a record deal? No. Would they throw a beer bottle at me if I'm singing karaoke? No. Like, I fall very pleasant in between. And, can I pick a couple strings on the guitar? Sure. But, for some reason, I don't think that was ever where I wanted to go. I was very shy and introverted as a kid, and I just didn't love the spotlight. And so is Dad. I mean, he just loves the music so much, he like tolerates the spotlight, but it is totally not his motivation at all. And I don't think I don't know that I ever tried to forecast, like, is this something that I should pursue because I might have an easy open door? I mean, that would be a very, natural road to take. And had I had the talent, I might have, But no, I think Mom and Dad always were like, you can do whatever you want to do. You can be whoever you want to be. You can be in business. You can be a writer, you can be a mom and a wife, and you can be a teacher, whatever. So that was always a sentiment. And my approach kind of was like, I really love learning. I like being good at everything, which is a pro and a con that I'm working on in my personal life right now. But I just wanted to try everything and see what felt true to me and see what stuck. And to be honest, I'm 30, almost 31, and I've found a lot of different things that stuck. I think there's a pressure to know so early, and some people do, and that's great. But I kind of dabbled around and found several things I was passionate about, and some of them have worked, and some of them have worked temporarily and then failed, and that's just part of, I think, how you grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we first met, I was just so impressed at your resilience. You have such a powerful testimony, and the world threw you curveballs that you could have never predicted, and that no one should have to experience. And you just experienced it with such grace and power, and turned it into a really purposeful endeavor in your life where you get to pour into and help so many other people. Yeah. So can you just kind of share, whatever you want to share, but we'd love to hear, the journey, what happened with you and your husband, and, what led you to, there's so many different, miracle, God whispers here, so just kind of fill us in on that, and then I want to definitely, talk about the identity.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I think just a place to start with the identity, with work, with trying to sort of, the pressure that we often feel to have a plan for our lives and a calling, so to speak, which we do have. But I think sometimes that word makes it feel kind of heavy, like a burden. And so my first love was writing. My degree's in creative writing. My dad's a songwriter. It's not a shocking situation, but always wanted to write books, and just never knew how. And so after college, I moved to Austin, Texas for legitimately no reason besides I wanted to live somewhere else besides Tennessee for a while. And, just bartended for money like people do when you're 22, and fell in love with wine. Had always loved food, cooking, all that, but fell in love with wine, and long story, trying to keep it short, basically had a 6 or 7 year career most of my 20s in the food and wine industry, which was so fun. It brought me back to Nashville. I opened a restaurant here called Salt and Vine that was a wine bar restaurant. And really the goal of that was community. I loved wine and people love to drink and eat. So I'm like, perfect. Let's have a space where wine is casual and inviting and not snobby and pretentious and white tablecloth. And did that for 2 years, which was fantastic and exhausting. And, that was a point at which I was sort of like, okay, this is my journey. This is my life. This is my career. I've made it. Was honestly pretty prideful. I was 26 when I opened it. And to be honest, I was really good at it. I was really good at it. And I still love that. It's a fun part of my life that I get to share with people. But it ended up closing almost exactly 2 years after we opened it. A lot for financial reasons. It was really a struggle. But also I had met Ben, my husband, after opening. Well, we met right before, when I was in the process of opening the restaurant. And, I was there nonstop, working 16, 17 hours a day, It was taking over my whole life. So once we got serious and during that 2 year period got engaged and got married, it kind of hit me I don't want this to usurp all of my time and energy,
Hustle is not the lifestyle.
Hustle was not the lifestyle at that point. And I was like, I've said since I was a young girl, and I don't believe you have to choose one or the other at all, but I was like, if I have to choose a career or a family, I want a family. I grew up with a tight-knit family with amazing parents, and that's what I want. So at that point, like I said, the finances weren't great, but I felt in my spirit, this season is done. You need to use your gift of writing. You've always wanted to do this. You're growing in your faith. I was sort of at a point where I was coming out of that, I don't give a crap in my early 20s. I can do whatever I want, and really getting serious about my faith. And, the Lord is just sort of you need to minister to women. And I think most of my staff there were young women, and inevitably, my goal was, let me be a spiritual rock for these people. I'm not going to preach in the kitchen, but I pray over the restaurant. Women come in, they have problems. We talk together, we cry together, we pray together. So I sort of felt a little conditioned for that. So that was 2018. Had no idea no plan. When I say no plan, I mean blank page. And so I get a call about a month after I closed Salt and Vine from my now business partner, Brooke. We knew each other, but not well. She called and she had this idea for a women's apparel brand that would celebrate Nashville, and the profits would give back to nonprofits serving women and children. So that was 3 weeks after. I was like, lady, I just closed a business that feels like a failure. I know nothing about clothes. I know nothing about nonprofits. And the Lord was basically like, yep, this is where you're going to be. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, neon lights, big, yes. And I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah. So I called Brooke and I'm like, this is really what I need to do. So this is July and we start building this apparel company, which I know nothing about. So she's like, how about this? I want to really pour into women. Okay, this is what the Holy Spirit's been telling me to do. And I need someone to write a blog. I can like do all the marketing and the design. And she's been a hairdresser and a social, what's it called? Network marketing. I mean, she's like very good in the kind of women's design business world. And she was like, I just want to pour into the people that are going to support me. Will you write a blog? And I was like, okay, this seems like exactly what I was looking for. So we start building the company, and I told her what we've talked about, to turn it into a podcast too, because that was a way for women to really get to know us more and engage and have cool guests. And so we start building that. It's called Nashville. So it's obviously play off Nashville, and it's for women. In July of 18, and in the very end of August 18, I'm in Florida with my husband, my sisters, their then boyfriends, and some friends. It's like they all had birthdays and we were celebrating. And my husband, Ben, had an accident getting back up on my dad's boat. We had gone out like for a like dinner cruise, whatever. It rained and he slipped getting back up on the boat, fell back, hit his head on the concrete. And you know, it's kind of one of those things where it's like kind of like a high school football game. They're kind of out and then they come to and shake it off and you don't think anything about it. And by the grace of God, there were 2 off-duty EMTs where our boat was parked, and they were like, yeah, you need to go to the ER. So we go. He suffered a pretty severe brain injury, which resulted in a lot of swelling and 11 days in a medically induced coma, 2 brain surgeries. I mean, it was unreal. Like, even looking back now and having done a lot of work to heal the trauma part of that, it's a very surreal battle, you know? And so he ended up passing away after 12 days in the ICU in Florida. And I mean, at this point, it was 3 weeks before our first wedding anniversary. So I had gone from, okay, I'm feeling great about life. Like, I have a successful business. I've just gotten married. This is what I've always wanted. To, okay, I've lost the business that made me feel a lot of the value that I saw in myself. I lost a marriage that I just gained a year ago, and I'm in this position to start this new business, but like, what in the world am I going to do? So it was, I don't think I even realized how drastic those changes were at that point, because, you know, you're running on adrenaline basically, but in retrospect, I mean, most everything that I had really subconsciously rooted my own value and worth in were gone within 2 months, you know? And it was truly a starting over point, like in a lot of ways.
Wow. And so, you know, in that time, like, when you're dealing with, you know, so many different things, the big grief bomb, you know what I mean? The big trauma and just your whole world turned upside down, and let alone the identity crisis that was happening in between all of that, with where your value was coming from, your worth, like your place in a partnership, all of those things. Like, what was that process like for you? How did you cope? How did you deal? And like, what were the, you know, it's like, you know, following one little footstep at a time. I'm sure there's obviously no blueprint for that, but how did you handle that?
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm always a person who likes to be in control. I like to have a plan. I like to know where I'm going so that I, you know, have a direct and successful route to get there. And none of that is possible in grief at all. Like, and I think because I had been able to sort of have a really good life thus far. I mean, I think I'd been able to sort of make plans and succeed with them pretty well. And I had achieved a lot of things, you know, that I wanted to. And I think when those fell away professionally and so personally, it sort of left me at ground zero. And I thankfully, in spite of handling it very poorly on many occasions, I will just claim that, my relationship with the Lord became just that. It was a relationship. And I grew up in the South in Christian culture and Christian school, and I'm so grateful for that and wouldn't change a thing about it. But I think when it's your world for so long, you just kind of take it as, okay, I believe this, I know it, I go to church, I pray, I read the Bible, I do my devotion, whatever you do. And I truly believe that I knew God my whole life. I came to faith in Jesus at 12, and he was always a part of my life, but I knew Jesus the Savior. I did not know Jesus the best friend that sustained you until Ben died. And it was because I had nothing else. There was nothing that could fill that gaping hole that I knew was never going to go away. It's never going to go away. It's still there. And that was all I knew to do. And I think by his grace, I think the two things that happen if you are a person of faith when tragedy strikes is you blame him and you run away, or you just collapse in his arms and that's the only place you're gonna be healed. And that's what I did. And because my community's awesome, they were with me nonstop, and I just dove into every single thing I could that kept reminding me over and over that God is good and that he desires our trust more than he really even desires our understanding, because I don't understand, I have asked why, and I have asked, did you cause this, or was it really just an accident? And now I'm at a point where I don't need those answers, because the answers wouldn't change anything. So, it has been a journey, and to sort of touch back on the identity part, I'd invested a lot in being successful. I'd invested a ton in being a wife, and the prospect of being a mom. We hadn't started trying for kids yet, but we knew what we wanted, and we had kids' names, and that was the plan, and we were going to start the summer we both turned 30. I mean, it was, you have a future planned, and even if you haven't had it, it still feels like you lose it. So that was a huge part of my identity crisis, not to use a dramatic word, but it was totally. Because, he passes, and then all of my friends start having their kids and starting their families, and it was brutal. It was really painful. And I think what I'm really grateful for, though it's a weird thing to say, is that because all of these sort of labels fell away at once, it forced me back to when I have nothing to show, work-wise, when I have no one to serve or love in a daily basis, in a daily way, because that's what makes me feel valuable too. Who am how do I feel good about myself? What do I do? And it forced me back to God again. And it just had this really, truly revelation moment where I was mad. And I didn't get mad a lot, but this was a time where I was really angry. And I felt the Lord say, whose are you? And it's just you're mine. I chose you. I died for you. I adopted you as my daughter. And you're going to have a million labels come in and out of your life. And they're good things that I'm blessing you with. And they're good things to make you feel valuable and contribute to society and love other people. But nothing will ever, ever be higher than your role and your identity as a one that I chose. You're my daughter. You have everything, that Jesus has, because you've been given it, and you got to hold that, or you're always going to be floundering. It was so powerful. And again, I've known that my whole life, but I had never felt it to the core like that, and felt it sort of, I don't know, redeem the way that I saw myself.
It forced you into this deep surrender, but from that deep surrender is where you really became almost naked. Okay, show me who I am.
Truly.
Really the heart and the core of who I am. And I know some pretty air quotes coincidental things happened off the back of that when it came to the work that you were doing and ministry and all of that. So, and I know that also ended up kind of being a saving grace of part of your healing journey.
Totally.
Can you just kind of share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Nashville, that July when we started planning it, Brooke, my business partner, the founder, when we met, her story is one of adoption. So she has a biological son, and she adopted her daughter, Louie. And so her heart is really for adoption, orphans, birth moms, foster care, everything vulnerable children that serves vulnerable children. So we knew that we wanted that to be one of the missions. And then we went to Scripture, and all throughout Old Testament and New, the Bible says, take care of orphans and widows, take care of orphans and widows. And at that point, I'm 28, she's 30, and we're like, okay, I no idea what to do here. We'll sort of shelve it, but we'll do it because it seems very clear that these two are associated in God's heart, and so we'll do it. And then our third mission is victims of human trafficking. So we arrived at those three. We have nonprofit partners for trafficking and vulnerable children at the time we launched, and we still hadn't really figured out how to serve widows. So this is, in retrospect, the Lord had set me up in a position to have work and have something to build that was going to give me purpose after his death. Because there's no way if someone had come to me after he died and was like, hey, you want to start a business? I'd be like, big ol' hell to the no.
Right.
But I was already in it, and we had chosen to serve widows. And then when he passed, it was a way for me to really fully, personally, intimately enter into the people that we wanted to serve and to the story of Nashville. But also the women who started to follow us, whether they've been widowed or not, anyone who was grieving or had lost, they pretty much watched me walk through it in real time. And, I don't think that was ever something that I sat down and I was like, is this a good thing to do or not? I think it was just, I was very honest with God about the fact that, I can't handle this pain, but with you, I can deal with this if there's a purpose. Mm-hmm. And if there's not a purpose, then I'm not going to handle this well. Mm-hmm. And so I think it just was a natural step to sort of be a voice, for people who have lost, who don't know how to hold the fact that, I believe in a good God, but, the worst thing I can imagine happened to me. And so for me, it was so much more to heal me than it even was to heal the people that Nashville serves. And of course, through that process, we found an amazing partner, and we've been able to write checks to individual women who can't pay their mortgage when their husband dies. And it's just been a way to connect with people and women on a very real level. And I just think, unfortunately, that our pain points are where connection and community are the richest. And so I got to do that, like I said, in real time, and continue to get to do that with women, no matter what their story through Nashville, because that's what we want to do. Our sales give back to the nonprofits that serve those specific people groups, but what we do is the women that support us and follow us and buy our clothing so that we can give back, man, we want to pour into them. And if I'm the voice for that, then praise God. And you know what? Ben's pumped about that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Well, I want to share about all the endeavors that you're doing, but while we're on that subject, and we'll link this all in the show notes, talk to us just a bit about Nashville and how they can get in touch with you and how they can support the organization. Yeah, so it's just Nashville with an E in the middle, so Nashville. We're primarily active on Instagram. We're on Facebook too. It's pretty much the same. Nashville.com. All of our clothing is there. A little bit more about our mission and our nonprofit partners are there. And we also have a podcast called She's in the City. We didn't want to pigeonhole it to Nashville because obviously people listen all over the country. And the whole thing there is we want to be able to give back and encourage and create more community with people that support us. So we have different guests on every week, just sharing stories of struggle and success and endurance and, business and family and faith and everything. We just want to be a voice where people can come and break the isolation of whatever they're experiencing. So that's She's in the City, and we're on Instagram as well, but all those podcasts are, they're on everything. Apple, Spotify, Love it.
Stitcher, which I don't actually know what it is. It just when I publish it, it's like Stitcher,
yes,
and I'm like, cool. I don't even know how to get there, but great.
But you guys are just really helping these individuals that reach out to you and say, hey, like, we need support in this way. Like, can't like you said, a widow that can't pay her mortgage. Like, what a godsend that is. And I'll just kind of brag on you for a minute. Like, not that it's about giving hope to the hopeless too. Like, of all of the things that you could look at your life and say, why me? And, really turn your back to your faith and to the rest of your life. Like, you are a testament to really stepping into it and pursuing so much more, and then paying that forward to women that really need to hear your testimony and your story. Yeah.
And I mean, kind of to go back to the beginning too, like, God's so intentional, and I think to whom much is given, much is required. I'm not saying that's why I lost Ben by any stretch of the imagination, but, with Dad's platform, a story that unfortunately is the story for a lot of women is actually being heard because of who he is and because he's successful. And honestly, it makes me so proud to be able to have the opportunity to share hope that a lot of people wouldn't. Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I'd love to hear, talk to us about, because obviously everything, your identity that was rooted in everything that felt certain was kind of like taken away from you. Yep. And I'm sure you released some of it too. So in terms of becoming the woman that you are today, so self-identified, so connected to her faith, really purposeful, driven, knows where her worth comes from, standing for other women to find that for themselves. Like, kind of what was that rebuilding process like for you? Well, I think like most rebuilding, obviously, right, destruction sort of comes before the rebuild. And much of that I did not choose. But I think after Ben passed, I, like I said, felt very much at ground zero. And I had to figure out, okay, truly when I wake up, when I look in the mirror, when I have nothing to contribute or do, or a person in my home, every day to serve, what's my purpose? And I think a lot of what I drew value from before was things that I could measure, like successes that I could see, and followers and likes and sales, things like that. And Ben and I were sort of like, not in an arrogant way, but we just were a really vibrant couple, and like always the ones to host and just like the connectors. And so I think part of my journey back to, okay, what's really going to sustain me? Because the thing is, some of the labels and things that I had rooted a lot of my worth in fell away, like you said. So it's like, how do I move forward without this happening again? Like, how do I move forward without creating a new house of cards on, oh, well, now I'm in nonprofits and that's why I'm a great person. Or like, now I can survive and I'm single and that's why I'm strong. Like, those things are great and they're important, but just, to me, it's just a thing. It's a thing about priorities. And I think Tim Keller says something really awesome about, we have to continually reorder our loves. And it's not that wanting to be a wife and wanting to be a mom and wanting to be successful are negative things. It's just that they need to fall in right place under who you are, in Christ, because that can never change. And I think part of the big thing for me was admitting, you know what? I'm never going to be enough. And even the best parts of my life that really are fulfilling are temporary, and I don't know how long they're going to be here. And I don't know, what the outcome of anything good might be. And I think there just was a freedom for the first time. I wasn't afraid to not plan all the way down the road. Like, not knocking a plan. A plan is a great thing.
Yeah. But coming from your recovering control of self.
Right. Yeah. For sure. But being open-handed with those plans. Like, my prayers went from being like, God, help me get to this, to God, this is my desire, and like, this is what I'm going to keep asking you for, but if this isn't your best for me, like, reroute me, and I'm ready for that. Yeah. So it really was, like you said earlier, more of a surrender and sort of releasing of all these other small kind of identity labels, and just surrendering to the one that's like, you know what, the only thing that every day I wake up and every night I go to bed that is going to be the same, that is going to be fulfilling, that is going to be unable to ever be lost is that man. The God who made me died for me because he loves me that much. And like, I'm in the family. I'm in the earth family of believers. I'm in the eternal family of believers. And like, he will never leave me. Like, he's the only thing that I can't lose. Yeah. And it doesn't make any of the rest of it feel good, like by any stretch,
sure.
but it just reorders your loves. And I think sometimes it takes, losing all the things that you thought made you who you were to get to a desperate place to try to figure that out.
Absolutely. And how much richer is it when you create it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of putting you on the spot here, talking about really a message that stands the test of time. If you were to talk to, former versions of yourself, younger versions of yourself, up and coming generations, we talked about being weighed and measured by likes and, heart emojis or whatever it is nowadays. You can tell how cool and hip I am with the lingo. But, and really, up all the way to adults, like what advice would you give for future generations and current generations around, what your identity is formed in, valuing how you weigh and measure your self-worth, coping with these emotions that like we are not designed to know how to cope with when they hit us, like all of those things, whatever, speaks to your heart. What would you what kind of, words of wisdom would you give to anybody who's listening?
Yeah, I think what I would tell my younger self and my now self actually still regularly is just that it's not all on you. Like life is not all on your shoulders. How you're going to turn out and what you're going to do and who you're going to meet and who you're going to be, it's not your entire burden to carry. Now, I, again, obviously say that from a Christian standpoint where to me, like Jesus has borne every burden. And it doesn't mean that I don't have things that I carry and deal with and choices I make and consequences that come from it. But ultimately there's this just life exhale that comes through that. So even if you're not a person who knows Jesus too, you still don't have to carry your own burden. I mean, I would obviously tell you, like, look to him because nothing will free you like he will. But even in your community, like there were people who, it took me a long time, even in grief and like a lot of prideful I'm fines, which like, hi, I'm not fine. Right. Like, to really let people carry me and let people do things for me. And I think I felt like a burden to them when all they were desperate to do was be there and love me. And they were overjoyed to do things for me. So I think whether that's in grief, whether that's in school, whether that's in relationship, whether that's in business, I was always definitely a power through person. And I can carry it. I'm not going to put my emotions on other people because they probably can't handle it and I can just handle it. And man, that's not life. That's not rich. And I mean, it's taken the last 2.5 years. I have found joy in actually being vulnerable with people that I've known for 10 years. And we've never had the conversations we've had till the last couple years. And just, it's like richer and it's safe and it's like free,
Absolutely. And what a gift you're giving to the people that want to pour into you, because now you're coming from a place where you're able to actually receive it from that vulnerable perspective. It's such that's a thing. Like you are such a giver. You pour into so many other people. Like I can only imagine how much of a joy it was for them to be able to finally pour into you. And now you get to be that version of yourself that knows the power of being able to receive that love. So,
well, and I think too, I've just learned, I'm a strong person and that has its own setbacks. Mm-hmm. But, like I kind of said it earlier, I mean, as much as we don't want to believe it, in our weakest moments is really when we show strength to other people and we allow other people to be empowered because they see us broken, but they see us hope and they see us overcome. Like that's the fuel that we have the opportunity to pour into people when we get past the I'm fine and I can do it by myself. Mm-hmm. When we get to like, hey man, this is terrible. Like this wrecked my life, but guess what? My faith muscles are stronger and I know who I am now and I'm secure in that. And like, you can get there too. And like, if you're not there now, sister, like I'll hold you up. Let's go,
Absolutely. Wow. Such a powerful advice. What are you up to now and how can people find you?
Yeah. So we're kind of hoping that by the end of this year, we'll be able to get Nashville back to the point where like we can do events and product drives and things, which praise God, I think we're close. But we're still releasing some new product there just to maintain cash flow, for Gives Back and everything. and the podcast, of course, She's in the City. And then I have a really exciting personal project that I can't really say a lot about, but it'll be released or talked about or shared or whatever sometime this fall. So if you want to just follow me, it's a lot of dog pics, it's a lot of food pics, but it's just MJ Selecman at Instagram.
Cool.
And Facebook, but mostly
and we'll put
Instagram.
that in the show notes. So MJ Selecman, and ladies, you definitely want to follow her because what she's coming out with in the next within the year.
Yeah, by the end of the year,
it is going to blow you away, and you're going to see sides of her that you haven't seen yet. So definitely stay tuned. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Thanks for sharing your truths, your vulnerable journey, and just really, again, I think it's just a testament to no matter what comes your way, you get to choose to stand in the face of that adversity with resilience and grace, and faith was just instrumental for you in redefining your faith, the new layers and new levels of it for you. So thanks for being here with us and sharing your truth, and we'll have to have you back soon.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm pumped, and I feel like a little shorted because we're on stressless eating and we're not eating. So maybe next time we'll get the cookies. We'll have the cookies.
We'll have the warm chocolate chip cookies in a very stressless fashion.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, ladies, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you heard and you're interested in breaking out of your own food, body, and diet prison, here's what I want you to do next. Head on over to stresslesseating.com. That's stresslesseating.com and sign up to watch the Stressless Eating webinar, where I'll walk you through the exact 5-step game plan my female clients use to conquer emotional eating, self-sabotage, and finally heal themselves from the restrictive all-or-nothing diet mentality for good, but without obsessing or spending years in therapy to address it. I've laid it all out for you there in 5 easy steps. Remember, healing your relationship with food and your body does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen, and we've helped clients all over the world take back their power from the food and find true and lasting freedom while enjoying life and warm chocolate chip cookies along the way. To see if we can help you do the same, head on over to stresslesseating.com. I'm Leanne Ellington, and I'll see you next time.